Ever wondered what would happen if SpongeBob actually got in trouble for all the crazy stuff he does? Well, instead of doing something productive with my life, I've dedicated my entire week to uncovering his shockingly dastardly deeds, and our favorite fry cook has a lot to answer for. Everything from minor mischief to offenses so extreme they make even Plankton look like a saint. First off, let's talk about how SpongeBob proved peeking in your neighbor's home is nothing new for him, especially when that neighbor happens to be Squidward. In the episode Whirly Brains, SpongeBob gets the not-so-bright idea to turn his brain into a drone.
It's so simple. Just flip your lid, attach the propeller, and watch your brain soar as you control the action.
While some people might dislodge their brains and pilot it around for other more useful purposes,
Hey Patrick, I know who we can spy on.
SpongeBob uses it for spying on his neighbor Squidward while he's taking a bath in his home.
The sanctity of my bathroom. The only place in the world where I can let it all hang out.
And of course, accompanied by his best pal, Patrick. Now, this is some serious invasion of privacy, and you don't need me telling you that. Knowing Squidward, we know that he didn't like that at all. This kind of behavior simply won't fly in a civilized society, and SpongeBob spying could cost him up to $1,000 in fines and the confiscation of his brain drone, which would suck for SpongeBob. I don't know if taking away Patrick's brain would affect him all that much, though. Now, we all know that litter bugs aren't welcome in Bikini Bottom, but just because littering is a serious crime in the town doesn't mean that our yellow sponge friend won't be committing them, obviously. I mean, we already know this guy doesn't care about the law, so while driving around with Patrick, he litters like it's the most natural thing in the world. A hot pursuit for littering? That's a first.
This is why I joined the force.
It's the police!
Pull it over, litterbug!
Litterbug? No!
Well, you at least gotta hand it to SpongeBob for being a loyal friend. He tries to cover up for Patrick's expired license and even confesses his litterbug tendencies to the judge.
What? Patrick's innocent. I tore up Patrick's license and threw it out the window. I'm the litterbug. Take me instead.
Now, this will result in a maximum sentence of $1,000 in fines. Looks like someone's about to trade in his Krabby Patties for some petty fines. This wouldn't really be a video on SpongeBob if we didn't talk about his extreme obsession with his friends. Remember that time that SpongeBob's pursuit of friendship took a criminal turn as he trespassed into Sandy's tree dome?
We're gonna go to Sandy's house. Keep the tree warm, Sandy. We're on our way to your house.
SpongeBob and Patrick break into Sandy's house because they want to hang out with her, but it's winter and Sandy's in hibernation. Her house literally got a keep out sign on the front door, but that don't stop SpongeBob, and they both break into her house. I don't think she could be any clearer.
During hibernation, animals don't like to be woken up, so do not disturb. That means you, SpongeBob.
The two still get inside her house, and the dome is all covered in snow.
SpongeBob, look at this!
At first, the two very much enjoy playing in the snow, but after hours of it, they start feeling the cold. When there's nothing to warm themselves up with, the normal thing to do would be to just leave, maybe find a blanket, but can't expect these two to be normal, right?
Look at all that toasty fur.
It's like a gold mine, but with fur.
They end up cutting all the fur off Sandy and wear it to keep themselves warm, which is weird.
Let me see that roll of tape.
This unauthorized entry and fur shaving frenzy would result in a sentence of another $1,000 in fines and also 30 days in jail this time. Safe to say that they'll be learning a quite hard lesson about respecting private property and squirrels. If you're feeling insecure about your appearance, SpongeBob really might not be the best person to consult with. Remember that time he convinced Patrick to get a nose?
If you're so concerned about not having a nose, why don't you just get a new one stitched onto your face?
I can do that?
Patrick goes ahead with the surgery and...
All right, Patrick, let's unveil the new Chanel.
Jeez. Patrick seems to love his new nose until things took a turn for the worst and he starts smelling the bad odors too. His newfound sense of smell leads him on a rampage. He maybe goes a bit too far and gets hell-bent on destroying all the bad smells of the world. It gets to the point where the gang has a meeting about what to do with Patrick's nose since he's going about disrupting anything that smells bad to him. And SpongeBob comes up with the usual act is a clear case of private nuisance. Noses count, right? Now, since SpongeBob will be charged for damages imposed, we're looking at fines of $16,000 for Patrick's new rhinoplasty. Maybe that would help SpongeBob reflect on the true meaning of friendship and the importance of respecting other people's noses. Did you know SpongeBob has failed his driving test 1,258,056 times? Not exactly someone you'd want to be driving with. It's not a secret that SpongeBob really isn't the greatest driver in Bikini Bottom, and you can see the proof here. He tears through the boating school and runs amok, recklessly driving his boat around. No drinking required.
Driving test is over, SpongeBob. Stop the boat.
I can do this.
Get back on the road.
Gotta pass the test. Gotta pass.
He's not a fan of melons either, I guess. He not only manages to crash his boat multiple times in creative ways, but he even ends up destroying a senior's home after he crashes into a fruit punch truck.
Thank Neptune, I'm still.
Let's open these windows so the world can see your nice white clothes.
SpongeBob's destructive joyride would land him in hot water with the authorities, and for his reckless driving, he'll be facing a sentence of $1,000 in fines and 1 year in Bikini Bottom's jail. I think it's time to revoke the Sponge's driving privileges for good. SpongeBob's misguided attempts to help Mrs. Puff take a dark turn in the episode Doing Time. After accidentally landing his driving instructor in jail, SpongeBob's concern morphs into an obsessive campaign of stalking and harassment. Failing to get arrested alongside Mrs. Puff, SpongeBob and Patrick resort to some pretty intrusive methods.
Come on, Mrs. Puff.
It's you. What are you doing here? Why did you follow me in here? Why? SpongeBob, I am not going with you.
Ah, that's a good one, Mrs. Puff.
They relentlessly invade Mrs. Puff's personal space.
Quick, Mrs. Puff. Hop on.
Guards! Guards, come quick!
Even her toilet? Really, dude?
Hop in, Mrs. Puff.
Guards! Guards, come look!
Their antics escalate to impersonating prison guards, ultimately driving Mrs. Puff to a psychological breaking point.
Get away!
What are you talking about, Puff?
You can't fool me! You're SpongeBob and that guy who likes the chili.
Stalking is a serious yet pretty annoying offense if you ask me, and SpongeBob's relentless pursuit of Mrs. Puff, causing her significant emotional distress, would result in a misdemeanor conviction with a sentence of 1 year in prison and $1,000 in fines. At least he won't have to sneak in this time. Let's talk about the time when SpongeBob's career aspirations took a dangerous turn as he delved into the world of medicine. Squidward mentions that he wants to get a nose job.
I'm on the way to the hospital for a nose job. I'm finally gonna get the nose I should have been born with.
Really needs it too.
Well, maybe a little work wouldn't hurt.
SpongeBob decides to accompany him to the hospital, and after getting sick of SpongeBob trying to help him, Squidward suggests,
If you want to help so badly, why don't you just go volunteer to be a candy striper? There's plenty of other people in the hospital you can torture.
after changing into a candy striper suit, SpongeBob pulls the candy stripes out, making a suit look just like a doctor's scrubs. And somehow the doctors at the hospital end up mistaking him for a real doctor and tell him to come along and help them. Well, of course, SpongeBob was not going to say no to that. After he has successfully helped and fooled the entire staff, they allow him to perform surgery. And entering the surgery room, the patient ends up being none other than, you guessed it, Squidward.
Oh boy, surgery! And on my first day, too.
SpongeBob, no! What are you doing here?
SpongeBob operates on Squidward trying on different noses, but he doesn't like any of them. Rightfully so, if you ask me. He ends up changing Squidward's nose back to normal, and Squidward is very happy and content with that until...
Well, I did have to use a few of your other body parts to resculpt it.
He gets his nose back, but at the cost of his other body part. SpongeBob proceeds to leave the hospital, dropping this bombshell on them.
Oh, look at the time. I have to go to work.
You're at work.
Nah, I'm just a fry cook. But it was fun playing with you guys. Bye.
SpongeBob's illegal surgery could land him in serious trouble with the authorities. Facing charges for practicing medicine without a license, he could be fined of up to $11,000 and sentenced to 4 years in jail. SpongeBob's entrepreneurial spirit sometimes leads him down a slippery slope. A very illegal slippery slope. In the episode Chocolate with Nuts, he and Patrick dive headfirst into the world of false advertising. At first, they try to make an honest living selling candy bars.
A chocolate bar?
That's a great idea, Pat. We'll be traveling chocolate bar salesmen. Fancy living? Here we come.
But with zero sales and empty pockets, they fall victim to a con man.
It's a candy bar bag, you knucklehead. It's specially designed to cradle each candy bar in velvet-lined comfort.
They end up straight up lying just to make some money, or in SpongeBob's words, stretch the truth.
Well, maybe if they didn't stretch the truth, they wouldn't sell as many.
That's it, Patrick. We've got to stretch the truth.
By making outrageously false claims about their chocolate bars, like curing illnesses and making hair grow, they mislead customers with the intent to make a sale. Deceptive trade practices like SpongeBob's could land him with a whopping $40,000 in fines. I don't think he can pay this off by just selling candy bars, even if he does do it the right way. We're all aware of Mr. Krabs' and SpongeBob's desperate obsession with a secret formula. That obsession ends up getting the better of SpongeBob, since in the episode Call the Cops, he ends up impersonating a police officer. See, it all starts with, and stop me if you've heard this one before, Plankton getting arrested trying to steal the secret formula from the Krusty Krab, which causes the police officer who arrests him to confiscate said secret formula as evidence.
Let the law handle this.
Yes, officer.
And I'll be taking this.
Wait, that's me secret formula.
Well, now it's evidence.
Now, Mr. Krabs comes up with the brilliant plan to dress up as a police officer and try to get the secret formula back from the police. Well, at least SpongeBob's self-aware. Not that it would stop him or anything.
Isn't it a crime to impersonate a police officer?
He even proceeds to arrest this poor girl selling cookies for not having a license. Pretty ironic, isn't it? They end up taking her to the police station, where SpongeBob shows his immaculate interrogation skills.
Okay, little Helen. What do you think of this weather?
Meanwhile, Mr. Krabs ends up finding Plankton in the evidence room, where they both end up fighting over the secret formula until SpongeBob barges in, confessing his crimes. Now, not only will SpongeBob be charged for impersonating a police officer, that one's a given, but he'll also be charged for illegally arresting Helen. With $2,000 in fines and 6 years in prison, SpongeBob will be spending a good amount of time in a police station, but as an inmate this go-round. Our absorbent pal here is already looking at about 12 years in prison and fines high enough that even a lifetime of flipping Krabby Patties couldn't pay it off. But now we're about to descend into the murky depths of SpongeBob's criminal record, where the crimes are more disturbing than Squidward's clarinet playing. The consequences heavier than an anchor, and the potential for jail time stretches further than the Flying Dutchman's frackin' beard. In the next crime, SpongeBob becomes an unwitting accomplice in a dangerous bomb plot with some, explosive consequences. Squidward gets SpongeBob a gift for Employee Brotherhood Day. It's really just an explosive bomb that looks like a pie. It ends up blowing up while Mr. Krabs tries to have some with milk.
Wait a second. This would go great with some milk. Whoop. You tried to kill me over a little new age management, eh?
Seems like SpongeBob ate the pie to Squiddy and Mr. Krabs, leading them to thinking that he's gonna blow up any moment. But to his surprise, SpongeBob had the pie put in his pocket and he shows it to Squidward, but while doing so, he may have accidentally tripped on a rock and the pie fall on Squidward's face and the bomb explode. No, this actually definitely happened. For recklessly handling Squidward's dangerous gift and contributing to the Krusty Krab's destruction, he'll be facing a hefty $10,000 fine and a 5-year jail sentence. Seems this Employee Brotherhood Day celebration was a blast. The worst way possible. This next crime is from the episode Life of Crime. SpongeBob's moral compass takes a vacation as he delves into the world of petty theft and even breaks into a home. SpongeBob and Patrick spot a balloon stand and want one, but don't have the money for it, so they just decide to borrow it. Pretty sure that's just called stealing, bucko.
It's just borrowing, right?
Yeah, and borrowing is okay as long as we bring it back, right?
Of course, they didn't get very far before the balloon did what balloons do best, and they realize they can't return the balloon anymore. They panic like crazy and run away after seeing the balloon guy.
It's not working!
Hi there!
And finally end up confessing to the police about their crimes, only for them to find out that it's actually National Free Balloon Day.
If you can't do the time, don't do the crime. Okay, time's up. Now get out.
But we stole a balloon.
On Free Balloon Day.
Although it didn't turn out to be a crime, it doesn't change the fact that these two literally shoplifted. That isn't all, though. The next crime is from a banned episode, Midlife Crustacean, where another instance SpongeBob, Patrick, and Mr. Krabs break into someone's house to steal a woman's undergarments, which they call a panty raid. That's not even the craziest part here. That house turns out to be Mr. Krabs' mom's house, and it was her underwear that they stole. Excellent plan, SpongeBob. Now, Mr. Krabs is weirded out, rightfully so, and angry, because he had no idea it was his mom's house. SpongeBob, however, knew. And tell Mr. Krabs he didn't say anything to him because Mr. Krabs didn't ask him anything. Textbook SpongeBob, really.
Why didn't you tell me this was my mother's house?
Why didn't you ask?
Now that is stealing, and although stealing the balloon did get him into jail, it wasn't technically stealing. SpongeBob's actions will be charged as first-degree burglary and theft, where he'll face 9 months in prison and $25,000 in fines for this ill-conceived underwear heist. It seems SpongeBob's quest for panty plundering could land him in the slammer for a very long time. SpongeBob is a felon at this point, and it's high time we accept it already. In the episode Sponge Guard on Duty, his reckless actions put the fish of Bikini Bottom in danger. How? Well, he became a lifeguard.
The best part is knowing you're the only thing that stands between these good people and a watery grave. Their lives are in your hands now.
But I can't swim. If I'd known being a lifeguard meant guarding their lives, I would never have said yes.
He faces a real emergency when Patrick experiences debilitating butt cramps.
Ice cream! Yay! Crap!
Panicking, SpongeBob resorts to drastic measures.
Patrick can't drown if there isn't any water.
Now, even though SpongeBob intended to save a life, under the Rivers and Harbors Act, illegally altering the condition of any navigatable water, which could include draining a lake without proper permits, would result in a civil penalty of $100,000 and 30 days in prison. Think of a top 10 list of the last places you want SpongeBob to be, and a rocket ship would probably be in the top 3. In the episode Sandy's Rocket, SpongeBob and Patrick end up crashing her rocket ship in Bikini Bottom, thinking that they've landed on the moon. The fact that their instinct was to just start kidnapping everyone in Bikini Bottom tells us everything that we need to know about these two.
Don't go near him, Patrick. Can't you see this is all a trick? The aliens are projecting our memories onto the environment.
So you mean to say they've taken what we thought we think and make us think we thought our thoughts we've been thinking our thoughts we think we thought? I think.
But I'm not going to fall for it.
These two idiots end up kidnapping everyone because they believe they're all aliens.
SpongeBob, I think we might have to make a second trip.
There's no time for that. Just push harder.
How SpongeBob and Patrick even managed to kidnap that many people is just insane to me. Not even professional criminals can do that much in such a short amount of time. Kidnapping is a Class A felony, and SpongeBob could face serious consequences for his actions. Now, Bikini Bottom has a population of about 500 residents, including SpongeBob and Patrick, and considering each act as a separate kidnapping, this brings the penalty to 9,960 years in prison. If you've ever seen SpongeBob's cleaning methods, you know he's nothing but a clean freak. Probably his best trait, if you ask me. In the episode The Krusty Plate, Mr. Krabs tells SpongeBob to clean a dirty plate and forbids him from leaving until it's entirely clean. Mr. Krabs asks SpongeBob to close up shop once he's done, even though we all know how that ended the last time he did.
Oh, and lock up when you're done.
Lock up? Wait, Mr. Krabs, don't you remember what happened last time you left me here alone?
Should have never left you alone with a lit blowtorch in me roller skates.
Honestly, Mr. Krabs, this one's on you, dude. SpongeBob clearly warned you there. But what happens next? Exactly what SpongeBob warned Mr. Krabs about. He uses a laser Spotmaster 6000 to clean the plate and also sets it to the most powerful setting. Now, it does sound like a great idea to clean a dirty plate, but not when SpongeBob is the one handling it.
Let's see what he's done this time.
Now, intentionally causing the Krusty Krab to explode using a laser could land SpongeBob with a grueling sentence of 20 years in prison. Maybe Mr. Krabs could have listened to SpongeBob after all. Remember that time the Krusty Krab got visited by Mr. Krabs' worst nightmare? A health inspector? In that episode, SpongeBob's culinary creations take a sinister turn as he and Mr. Krabs cook up a nasty patty. At first, everything's going well. Mr. Krabs even tells SpongeBob to feed the health inspector everything on the menu. For free, too. That's pretty big coming from someone like Mr. Krabs, you know? But then everything goes downhill when Mr. Krabs sees the news on TV that apparently a fake health inspector is going around.
For a special news bulletin, be on the lookout for a man who's been passing himself off as a health inspector in order to obtain free food.
Free!
Now, Mr. Krabs gets pretty mad for feeding the criminal for free, so we tell SpongeBob to make a nasty patty for the health inspector. Let's not forget, we're not even 100% sure if this guy is fake or not. And this isn't just some random nasty patty, guys. They make sure to use like volcano sauce, seahorse radish, toenail clippings, and for a final dirty touch, SpongeBob literally drops the patty in the toilet. But before the guy gets to eat it...
Hey, hurry up with that patty.
Here you are, sir. Enjoy.
Come to Papa.
Eventually, they find out he wasn't fake after all. But SpongeBob thinks that this happened because of the patty that he and Mr. Krabs made. And at first, they start to blame each other, but then decide that they just gotta do something about this. And the best thing to do in this situation would be to check if he's actually dead or not first. But no, instead of doing that, SpongeBob and Mr. Krabs actually take the body to bury it at the top of a hill. Very intelligent!
This should be far enough. Now get digging.
Yes, sir. There's a big rock in the way!
Well, toss it out and get back to digging!
Where am I?
The deed is done. The two have buried the body. But then the police show up and they panic. However, the police are just there to escort them back to the Krusty Krab, so we chill. They're lucky the police sure do love those Krabby Patties. But things take a turn when rain brings the body downhill. Mr. Krabs tells SpongeBob to hide in the trunk of the police car because obviously no better place to hide a body than the trunk of a police car. Ooh, is that steam I see coming out of your ears? Oh, that brain is working in overdrive.
Put him in the trunk, boy. I'll keep them cops busy.
What's the holdup back there?
The boys...
Now the two are panicking big time. They get back to the Krusty Krab and hide the body in the freezer, and I've got no idea what these two are even doing at this point. The Krusty Krab, the police officer, asks for soda with ice, but instead, Mr. Krabs just panics and stands in front of the freezer saying that there is no ice. The officer insists on opening the freezer, and that's when Mr. Krabs and SpongeBob start blaming each other for the murder. SpongeBob and Mr. Krabs confess that they committed a murder and hid the body in the freezer.
We killed the health inspector and then stuffed his body in the freezer.
However, to their surprise, the freezer's actually empty and the body's gone. A while later, the health inspector returns to the Krusty Krab and tells the dude that they passed inspection. What? Now, all that may have been a bit too chaotic and not entirely everything was SpongeBob's fault, but this incident would land him with charges of food tampering, attempted murder, and obstruction of justice. These serious offenses would result in a cumulative prison sentence of at least 70 years or life imprisonment. It's clear by now that SpongeBob's destructive tendencies aren't something to be taken lightly, but they reach a new low as he commits manslaughter multiple times. Having bad breath isn't a crime in and of itself, but SpongeBob sure ends up making it one. In the episode Something Smells, SpongeBob is out of sundaes, so he decides to make his own nasty version of one. Ketchup. Onions. And peanuts grown in his bathroom window. That should be a crime in itself, if you ask me.
A little texture never hurt. There we go. This Sunday's gonna taste great.
Now you can imagine the kind of smell coming out of SpongeBob's mouth after he ends up eating that sundae. Unfortunately for the residents of Bikini Bottom, today is the exact day SpongeBob decides to say hi to literally everyone, and his greetings aren't particularly well received.
Hello. Some people are even late on Sunday.
Some of the fish are so disgusted by his breath that they grab onto a hook and leave for the surface. His breath gets into the eyes of a driver and that causes his car to crash and explode. These innocent fish watching a movie pass away from his putrid breath.
Pardon me, ugly sponge coming through.
Oh, and her too. Not only that, but he even ends up vacating the entire movie theater with how bad his breath stinks. Although his recklessness wasn't intentional, not only does SpongeBob cause a public nuisance, but he injured and ended up killing multiple times with his smelly spree. Taking note of all the fish that he's injured or killed, SpongeBob will be facing multiple charges of manslaughter for his bad breath. A sentence I never thought I'd ever have to say in my entire life, where he'll be looking at about a sentence of 32 years in prison. Now, falling in love isn't a crime in and of itself, but murdering for love certainly is. And that's exactly what SpongeBob is guilty of in the episode To Love a Patty. SpongeBob makes a bunch of Krabby Patties, which he claims are the best he's ever seen, but one in particular stands out for him, and he ends up falling in love and naming her Patty.
Perfection, from your little lettuce hair to your rosy ketchup cheeks, may I call you Patty.
SpongeBob, what do you expect? Squidward gives SpongeBob an idea, which SpongeBob ends up taking literally and takes Patty home, ignoring everyone to spend time with his newfound love. His whole world starts spinning around Patty, and he even sings a song for her and whatnot.
Oh, baby, they may call me a fool, but I can't help our gravitational pull.
Our boy was seriously down bad for a burger. So when at the Valentine's Day Carnival, some clams try to eat the patty, yeah, our yellow friend can't stand that. And that's when the demon inside SpongeBob is released. He uses karate to murder 21 clams just to save his patty. Okay, I get it. He's a fool in love, but to kill 21 clams just for a burger is insane. Considering every clam as a living entity, this carnage, if even fueled by love for a Krabby Patty, would still result in multiple murder charges, which is typically life imprisonment with parole after 420 years, if he's lucky. Do I even need to mention the fines? Like, we all know it's gotta be over $1 million, and it is. There's also the possibility of solitary confinement thrown in there. SpongeBob might regret not simply sharing his beloved patty with the hungry clams. With all of that combined, SpongeBob is looking at a staggering $1.2 million in fines and a whopping 10,520 years in the Bikini Bottom Slammer. But how does this dodgy character compare? Click the video on screen to find out.